On this episode of Hanging with Hardcore podcast, we dive back into our past with a little story time to help provide some context as to how the journey of donating $1 billion is going so far. The story begins with Dylan sharing his deepest personal why and the origins of where Hardcore Headstart, the idea, was formed from. I've heard this many times over the years, and the more I hear it, the more I feel the weight of the impact we must achieve here at Hardcore Headstart. We have made so many mistakes as individuals throughout our time, all that we look back on and wish we didn't make. But learning from these mistakes has allowed us to reinvent ourselves into the people you see before you today. We live in a world that shows what success looks like, but not the transparency or reality of what happens on the journey to get there. We are different. We want to show you every nook and cranny in order for you to learn from our mistakes. Warren Buffett says it's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's better to learn from the mistakes of others. Please learn from ours so that you can save yourself the time. I hope you enjoy.
3, 2, 1, and we're live, boys. So welcome to Hanging with Hardcore episode number 10. We made it. Double digits. How do we feel?
Boys. Feeling good, man.
Yeah.
Sense of pride, boys. Sense of pride.
What's the stat? Like 90% of people don't make it past episode 7.
Yeah, that's it.
They just drop off. But here we are, boys. Episode number 10.
The beauty of it as well is like we're actually really enjoying it. So we can't see ourselves stopping.
Dude, it doesn't feel like we've done 10.
Yeah, I know.
It's been easy, yeah.
It's so like consistent. It just feels so like natural.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see, like, we put 6 months of work in previous to this to actually finding our style, working out what works for us all individually and speaking and what works for us together as a group. So it's like to be able to see that actually translating in a lot of value for them and us actually enjoying what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty awesome.
And we've set up like a structure that's so well that like it just it doesn't feel like work. Like it just feels so natural.
Yeah, it just feels like we're just talking amongst ourselves.
And in that 6 months of preparation, we're making that structure. We're doing all that. So
And the beauty of it as well is like in terms of scalability, we can do something like this where it takes probably roughly, let's say it takes 10 hours of our time, including preparation and everything. But if it reaches even 100 people, that means 10 hours of work to 100 people. Like how much value is that? Imagine we had 100 people like sitting right here now. Yeah. Like how nervous would we be? Like having 100 people staring at us.
Yeah. Or just if we were doing this live.
Yeah.
Because, we can't redo it.
And like, imagine like when we're doing meetings and stuff, we could only do maybe like say like 5 people a week on average. But through the podcast, we're doing 300 people a week.
Yeah.
You can't actually physically do one-on-ones that many. So it's just wild.
yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And I've been getting a ton of messages as well.
Yeah.
Just like people saying, "Oh, you listen to your podcast. It's so much value.
Eye-opening, yeah.
It's so true. Everything you guys are saying is so true."
Yeah.
Like even people are like rethinking what they're doing at uni and shit. So, it's nice to hear that.
Yeah. That's the
Like,
best thing.
It's nice to know that there's people out there that feel like they're a part of our community.
Yeah. And day by day, it's just going to get stronger because we've only gone 10 episodes. We have at least 100 episodes to do through this format of like an actual course. Like we were saying before, how we're actually creating the A's, the B's, the C's and D's and so on to create the whole entire alphabet. We're still in the early stages. So imagine once we've done the whole entire thing, how much value will be there for free on the internet forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like on that note, like the last 9 episodes, we've given a lot of value on character building, just small lessons, I guess, on what we've implemented. I think this episode is a little special because now we're going to actually show you the mistakes that we've made along the journey. Mistakes, that
we personally made.
We all personally made, and you'll kind of see the results of learning from these mistakes. And G is a perfect example of accelerated learning from mistakes.
Yeah, because with G's story, he's like, so I first came up with this system, like the Hardcore Headstart way is how we say it. So I read like heaps and heaps and heaps of books. We're talking hundreds of books to figure out this like little system. And that's what we're bringing to you guys in this podcast format. But first off, like I was starting with training Samir and Daniel. And, I had some mistakes in like my teaching ability wasn't the best and all of that. But over time, we can see that, you guys would have certain mistakes, and we're going to talk about them, which you regret in the past, now looking back on the past, because it's about opportunity cost. And so if we can talk about all of our mistakes, we all have them, then the audience can not make the same mistakes and, not regret it and save time for them.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of like knowledge. That's what a book actually is. That's what a podcast actually is. You're learning from someone else's experiences, so you don't have to make the same mistakes. You can get ahead faster in life.
I think the transparency of today's podcast is going to kind of prove like this is we're trying to, what we say is what we do.
Yeah,
that makes sense. We learn from what we, and a lot of social media at all times is always the sexiest thing possible. They show you the Lambo, not how they got the Lambo. They won't show you the mistakes that got them there. They'll think they're perfect, and that's the reality of the situation. Is we're normal lads. We're not perfect, not even close to it. We certainly weren't when we first started this. These are the results of what happens.
And that's the beauty of it. Like, people think we're really smart now, but there was nothing special about us at all. We're not an Elon Musk. We don't have a brain capacity on another level. We are literally just normal people. And that's the beauty of it. This stuff works for absolutely everybody.
So starting off, Dylan, you founded Hardcore Headstart. You were the leader amongst your peers to get on this path of self-development, personal growth, whether in every aspect of life. How did you start, and what were some of the mistakes early on of Hardcore Headstart? I
guess it's a good time to go over the whole story in a little bit of detail.
Yeah.
So my story, it starts back that I was fortunate enough, lucky enough that my mum took me to Bali when I was just about 14, 15. And, I was not even looking forward to it, because at the time I'm pretty sure Halo 3 and stuff was out. And it was the best game of all time. And I'm like, I don't want to go overseas. I just want to play my games. But then, we went over there and I was reluctant about the whole thing. But then as soon as I got there, I didn't know what I was expecting. So it was just a massive culture shock, and I just loved the place. We were only there for 4 days, but I fell in love with Bali so quickly. And then I would ask Mum, hey, you guys are staying at the resort and all of that. I would just like to go and explore by myself. And she said yes, which is no joke, because being in a third world country as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old boy, and I had no one with me, so I could just do whatever I want. And I was lucky, because I would have $100 pocket money or something, and that would last me the whole trip. And I just felt like, man, I'm balling in this country. I can explore, I can buy little things, and just be like an adult. And then eventually, I just loved the people there. They're always smiling, they're always happy, and just realized it was different to Australia. And I'm like, oh, I can learn from these people. And it's at the beginning, it was all about, with my $100, what can I buy? What's so cheap and all of that stuff? What can I bargain down and bring all this good shit back to Australia?
Fake Ray-Bans.
Yeah, all this fake shit. It was terrible stuff. I thought it was good back then. It's all the worst quality stuff you can get. But I thought it was mad cool back then. And then, so I started hanging out with these locals, and then I was really curious. I just wanted to see what it's like at their actual places where they live. So I just asked them, hey, would you be able to bring me back to where you live? I'd love to check it out, spend some time with you, because I really want to know what it's like to be an Indonesian or be a Balinese. And they're like, yeah, no worries. They invited me straight over. Literally, as soon as I said it, let's go now. And it's making me think different. Let's go now. Who says that? Imagine you met someone on the street and they're like, yeah, come back to my house right now. No one's ever going to say that. So I went back to their house, and then I jumped on their scooter. That was super fun. So I fell in love with scooters from that moment onwards. And we're just driving down all the side streets, and it's all opening up. And then I'm starting to see the real Bali, and restaurants and smells, and the noise of the scooters and the traffic and all of that. And it's like sensory overload in a sense. And then we eventually got to their place, and we jumped off the scooter. And what it's like is it's kind of like an apartment block, or maybe unit block. So the unit's single level, but they're all little tiny huts. There's just 30 huts on a block, and then the next block will be 30 huts on a block. And that's one unit block in a way. And so to literally visualize it, each one of those huts was like a concrete slab, then plywood up to about 1 meter tall. Then after that, it was chicken wire, so you could see through, and it was exposed to the elements. And it's on purpose as well, because it's really, really hot. So they need the wind to come in. And then they just had like a tin roof, and that's it. And then, so there's just like 30 of them, like imagine 15 on one side, 15 on the other. And at the front, there's one shared bathroom between 30 of those households. And those households, it's literally from you, Samir, to Chris, and the same length. So maybe what, 3 meters by 3 meters? They would have...
Wait, one shared bathroom between 30 people? Like
30 households. Each household had about 5 people. Minimum.
It's about 150.
Yeah. It's when you go in there, I couldn't work it up to actually go to the toilet. I couldn't do it. I've actually got some photos on my phone as well of Gili T, which is a small island off of Bali, where I went into someone's house as well and went to their toilet and I documented it a little bit. So it's an interesting one to go check it out. But that was like one person's toilet. This is between literally hundreds of people share the same thing. And you got to organize it, like who's going to the shower, who's not going to the shower, who's going to the toilet, and they're all little squat toilets. There's no flush. Like you have to use a bucket, you have to pour it in. And that's how it is. And like everybody can actually get along and not fight. Every now and then there's little fights, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But it's wild to see that hundreds of people can get along and live in such a confined little area. So this family, they actually were a family of about 6. And as soon as they got like these little chairs, and it was really funny because there's like a whole little thing. They got these little plastic chairs, these little stools, and then they would run to other houses. Oh, let's get another one. And they'll get another one from there. And then all of a sudden, there's enough chairs for all of us to sit down because they didn't actually have enough. They only had like 2 themselves. And then they're like, "Oh, what do you want? Like, what do you like? You want to have a little bit of fruit, or just like, oh yeah, I'll accept some fruit." And then I'm always thinking in my mind, I don't want to take because I can see how poor they actually are, and I already had the plan that whatever they gave, I was going to give back even more. By the end of the trip. So I had that thought in my mind. And then, I wanted to take because I didn't want them to feel like I was special. I wanted to eat side by side with them. And then, they started feeding me watermelon and all this stuff. And then they're like, "Oh, you like Indomie, like mee goreng and, fried noodles?" I'm like, yeah. And they started cooking up fried noodles. And that's their staple. Fried noodles is the staple in Indonesia because I think the cost there, if I can remember correctly, is like 5 cents for like the Indomie, roughly. It's so extremely cheap. And it's actually cheaper in some regards compared to actual rice. So rice, every time I go there, like 20 kilos, like $10, I think. So it's quite expensive. So they it's cheap overall, but compared to like tiny little packs of mee goreng, it can last them a long time. Mm-hmm. So they started feeding me that, and we were just having a conversation. It's all great and all of that. And that was like my first experience with the locals. So as you can imagine, like going back and forth, I just love to have fun with them. And then, I asked the father on like one of the days, and like, "Hey, is there anything I can do for you? What would you like?" And he said nothing. And then I asked the daughter that I became friends with, I'm like, "Oh, what would your dad actually like?" And she's just like, "The dad won't tell you, but he really just wants Kentucky. He just really wants KFC. He would just really want to try one piece of chicken."
Wow.
And so I'm like, all right, I got this $100 in my pocket that my mum gave me. I'm going to spend $30, go to KFC, and we're going to buy a whole bucket for this family. So I rock up with this bucket. Dude, you should see the expression on this man's face, how happy he was for the KFC. And ever since I did that, that was like one of the things where I'm just like, man, I understand it now. How it's literally like one of the keys to happiness is helping others.
Yeah.
Something that was so small for us was so meaningful to someone else. And so that's what I really loved about Bali. And I did feel like a mentor in the sense that in a way it was always a weird little dynamic between myself and the people from Balinese, the locals, because they would always look at us like we're better than them. But I always wanted to be the person to say we're the same. We're all humans at the end of the day, right? And I don't want you to ever think that I'm better than you. We're always the same. So we're going to hang out and be the same. So like I always wanted to like try to portray that to them. So yeah, like the had so much fun. Spent most of my time with the locals and all of that, and barely even with my family. I'd only go back for like dinner and stuff. And we actually bought them.
Most days you were just at the village.
Yeah, like this is not really a village. It's just like, so Bali is normally like 2 streets from the beach.
Yeah.
Like horizontal with the beach is like the built up area where there's hotels. But as soon as you go back 2 streets from that, then it's slums. So it was part of the slums.
Wow.
So more inland is the slums.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
But it's literally a 50-meter difference. So that's why I really want to do like a vlog in Bali one day. I'm like, hey, here's like Legian Street, which is like the most popular street on the beach. 50 meters behind, this is the slums. And just walk it. Just like, if you walk 50 meters, it can go straight to the slums. Like it's just, but everybody walks towards the beach. No one walks backwards.
Yeah.
So I want to show everybody backwards what it's like and the living conditions and all of that. So to put in perspective as well, like the cost of these little units per month is 500,000 rupiah, which is $50. So they're spending $50 an entire month. And some people, I went to a house where it was only 350,000, $35 a month was their rent that they were spending. So you can imagine like what it's like. That's the lowest of the low, 350. 500's kind of, it's still pretty damn low. I would say now like $100 a month is like the standard rate for Bali to get like, you're kind of like middle class. So you're middle class of the poor, because there's not really a proper middle class like there is in Australia. And then there's just a massive gap to the wealthy. But yeah, that's what it was like. So yeah, then eventually, like I went back home. I just couldn't stop thinking about Bali. I loved it. I wanted to explain it to everybody. But imagine explaining it to other 14 and 15-year-olds. They're not going to get it.
Yeah.
But this thing made me mature so quickly. This made me, like, I wasn't really mature, but it started the seed, and I was starting to water it in my mind. Like, oh shit, I got to start thinking differently. I've seen the bloody world now. I've seen what it's actually like. Australia's not the world. It's not even close to what the world's like. You know, we're living in a little unique bubble here in Australia. It's not even real. So that's starting to go in my mind. Then eventually I'm like, I need to find a way to get back. And I was just like, obviously, I start making the plan that we're going there for schoolies. All right. That's where we're going. We're going to Bali for schoolies. So I'm just starting to spread it to the boys. Let's go schoolies instead of, Gold Coast and all of that stuff. And I had to wait so many years to get to the schoolies. And then finally, there's only 2 other boys that went. So it was 3 of us. We went over there. Same thing happened again. We expected to go do the partying stuff and all of that. I just got addicted to the locals. So in a way, I kind of like ditched my mates. It was kind of bad on my behalf, but I just couldn't help it. And I wanted to bring them in. And we tried one night. We jumped in a taxi, and I'm just like to my mates, hey, like, let's ask the taxi driver, take us to your favorite restaurant and we'll shout you. So we just went there, and they liked it. Like, but I was trying to spark it in their minds to like, let's hang out with the locals, but they didn't really get it. They wanted to have fun. And I wanted to do that. So yeah, spent half the time with my mates, half the time with the locals again. And then, yeah, eventually go to university. Every single holiday, I would find a way to get to Bali. And probably by like my 5th trip, I had built such a strong connection with that family that I met on the first time. And this is when they finally dropped the bomb on me. And they said, hey, Dylan, we hate to ask you this, but we really need $1,000. I'm like, what's it for? And they're like, oh, our daughter is seriously ill and needs to go to hospital. And this is when I'd already arrived back in Australia. So they didn't ask me when I was there. They asked me the week later. And it just seemed a little sus. Like, why didn't they ask me when I'm there? And then I'm thinking, oh, that's probably because they don't want to ruin my holiday and all of that. And it's hard for them to say it face to face. And so I asked my people around me, and everybody's like, because they've been saying this the whole time, that these people that don't actually like you, they're just there to rip us Australians off. They're always there to make money. So I've always, I've had two experiences. My personal experience was it's really lovely, and I can't see them that they're acting. I can't see that they're lying. Personally, my gut was telling me this shit's legit. This is true love in a sense, and I thought they were literally teaching me what love is. And, yeah, everybody around me like thought it was just like, dude, like just hanging out with Australians. They're there to rip you off. They're scumbags. And some Balinese, or like Indonesians, they are scumbags too. Like the ones that are in the hot spots, they're trying to rip you off. But that's their job. They don't know any better. So like that's what their interpretation is. Like my friends and family, that's all they could see. They didn't experience the real shit like I did. But because I had a weak mind, I didn't trust my gut. I didn't trust what I saw with my own eyes. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to listen to everybody around me, and I'm going to not give the $1,000. And it was a tough decision for myself because at that time, $1,000 seemed really big, but I could already start to understand money a little bit. I wish I really understood money like I did today. I thought just, hey, but it would only be 2 weeks of work to get the money back, even if I did get scammed.
Can I just have a little understanding as
Yeah.
well? How old were you roughly around this time?
This time I'm 18.
18. So
Yeah.
you're really young.
Yeah.
And like
I'm
$1,000 seems like huge at that age.
Yeah. I'm probably just turning 19. So yeah, I'm probably literally just turning 19.
Yeah. And you're working at Nando's at that time as well?
Yep. This is like when I just got the job.
Yeah.
So I just got the job. And I decided, I'm gonna pass on it. I'm not gonna do the 1,000. And I told him, hey, I'm really sad to say this. I can't give the 1,000. And they're just like, oh, that's fine. And then I found out a year later from a different person that their daughter, which I was friends with, so I was friends with the younger daughter, their elder daughter literally died because her heart failed on her, and she didn't have the chance to go to hospital. They couldn't find access to the money. And I don't put it on myself that, like I'm the reason why she died or whatever, but I'm just thinking, hey, I understand the power of money. I understand the importance of money now. But back in the day, all I wanted to do was just waste time, have fun, and be selfish and play Halo 3. That's all I wanted to do. That's not the world. The real world is people are dying every day because of just $1,000, And that made my heart sink. And it made me really reflect on my view of the world. And it just made perfect sense ever since. Bali was the real world. That's what it's really about. People are suffering. Boom. Real world experience of someone dying because of a lack of $1,000. Even if it didn't save them, but it gave them 6 months extra. Great investment. Great investment. I would pay $1,000 any day of the week to gain 1 day extra of my life. And so...
This was like a young girl as well.
Yeah, young girl. She was probably like 3 years older than me at the time.
She had a whole fucking life.
Yeah. 3 years.
And $1,000.
Yeah, poor girl. So...
It's alright, man. It's alright, man. Let it out. Yeah, but it's experiences like that, it's truly life-changing. It completely changes your perspective on how you see the world.
And I think it's really courageous of you to say that.
Yeah.
To say that story, man.
Absolutely, man.
Honestly. Because that perspective, just that alone, can switch so many people's mindsets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that experience made me find the answers. I realized money was important. I'm going to dedicate my whole life to it. And so I just start researching who are the 10 richest people in the world. They all have one thing in common. They all invest, or they have companies where they made their money from invest. They had shares.
Yeah.
And so, that starts the thought process. They all got something in common. And I got to find the answers. And that's how Hardcore Headstart starts being born. I find out that the answers are all in the books. I'm listening to Joe Rogan at this stage, and every successful person has one thing in common. They listen to books, or they read books, and then they put the work in and they make it reality. You know, because the secret is books. The secret is knowledge. That's where it's at. There's not a pill. It's just books, right? And so I just go hard. I start working my ass off at Nando's because I need money. I'm relentless. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but all I know is I need money. Because if I get a lot of money in and sacrifice myself, I will be able to save that much money and be able to invest it. I don't know how to invest it yet, but I'll figure out a way because I'm researching. So I start working my ass off. This is like literally when I just get the job, start working my ass off at Nando's. Within 2 weeks, like first 2 weeks, you always start off as dishwasher. When I'm in there, I'm making sure I'm not looking at the dishes at all. I'm observing the whole entire back kitchen to understand exactly how this thing works. I'm just constantly observing, constantly watching, right? And then trying to be like the nice guy so that people, you know, they want me around because I want more hours.
They open up to you.
It's like after 3 days, they ask me, hey, do you want to just jump on and make a burger? Dude, I already know how to make a burger.
Yeah.
I've been watching that shit. Then like, wow, how do you know? I just, you know, I've been observing for 3 days. I can't tell people, like people aren't going to know that. And then, no joke, within 2 weeks, I think I can run the entire back kitchen by myself, which is half the restaurant. I can run it within 2 weeks by myself, right? People that were there for years, I made them look like they were the trainee and I was the boss, right? Normal traineeship at Nando's lasts for 3 months. I already known the whole thing in 2 weeks. By the second month, they already asked me to be promoted to team leader when average people aren't even finishing their traineeship yet. So I'm already becoming a shift supervisor. And by that third month is when I learned the front of the house. Boom. I learned the whole restaurant practically in 3 months.
Yeah.
Front and back. Then I keep on working hard, ask for more hours. And then people from other stores would come over to Nando's, right? And they would be like, who's this Dylan guy? Like, wow, he's quick. You know, and they were even managers from other stores. Like, wow, this guy's quicker than me. And then it was really lucky where one of our, what's it called? Business BDMs, business development managers came over and he saw, and the other manager that came over to us, she was just like, how long has Dylan actually been working here? And he's like, I just hired him 3 months ago. So I was like, then I'm starting to get my reputation out there. And then eventually I could convince the boss to hire me as the assistant manager. That was 6 months in. Then luckily she had to leave. Who was the natural person to replace her? It was me within 9 months. So within 9 months, I could become the boss. As soon as I become the boss, I can finally push my hours past the maximum 38 hours a week. I go straight to 50. I can handle it. I go straight to 60. I can handle it. I go straight to 70. And that was the max. I didn't want to do any more than 70 because that was too much. But at the same time, 70 hours of work, saving so much money, investing it. And then at least 20 hours a week was studying to get smarter, reading how to make this system. Combine those two, you become decently wealthy pretty quick while sacrificing in the cheapest rent that you can get in Springvale, $100 a week, including all bills. Absolute shithole it was, but I always had the perspective compared to Bali, this is luxury.
So I think it's really important to talk about that specific thing. So when you came back from Bali and you had that experience of, you know, you found out that that girl didn't make it, and it was just because of $1,000, right? So that was your why. Yeah. So you had a really strong why, which made you so good at Nando's. Yeah. Now you just have this one mission. Yeah. It's so obvious now what your mission should be. So obvious. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are lacking. They don't have a strong why. Yeah. Once you have a strong why, you'll do the shit that you did, like at Nando's, where you operate as if the business is yours because you know what you have to do. Yeah. You knew that you needed money and you figured out the richest people in the world are investors.
Yeah.
So you figured out you need to invest as well.
Mm.
So money, you need to invest
Yeah.
so that you can spend your time helping people.
Yeah.
Because that's the real shit in the world.
Mm.
Right. So that was your why.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you became
Mm.
the manager of Nando's within 9 months.
Yeah.
And it's
100%.
possible.
Yeah.
You went full hardcore.
Mm.
You
It's very
optimized
hard.
your life so that you sacrificed in the short term
Mm.
so that you could achieve that
Yeah.
goal of
Mm.
becoming independent
Yeah.
with your money.
Literally, within the 3 months of Nando's, I turned into a beast.
Mm.
Like, I was a different human being.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, man. I really like got it together. I think the big takeaway for the audience is you really got to find your why.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having the same why as Hardcore Headstart, because it's not my why. You know, this is only one thing. This is actually happening every single day. You know, millions of people are dying where they don't need to die.
Yeah.
It's not about my experience. I'm just fortunate enough that it happened to me, so it really kicked me in the ass to get my shit together. And
The crazy thing is, like, with that story, it's like, and I hope the audience can take away from this, is like $1,000. What we all have at like 18 years old, just with our job, can literally save one person.
Yeah. And then
one child. That was one kid.
Yeah.
When you start researching about effective altruism, meaning to do good in the world, like how do you invest that money like an investor to get the biggest bang for your buck, you find out that you can actually get even more value with your money than $1,000. Like less than $1,000 can save lives, literally, entire lives. So after that, I just really started to think, hey, if my goal I want to donate $1 billion, how many lives can I save?
Yeah.
You know, because if I was living in one of these countries, I would just be praying every single night, help me please. Because the key difference is, and why we need to help, is because we're so lucky to be born in Australia. Because at the end of the day, we did nothing to be born here. You know, we can work at McDonald's, Nando's, KFC, wherever it happens to be, any job, dishwasher, and you can become a multi-millionaire, literally, in this country. Because minimum wage is like $18, $19 or whatever it is. No matter what, even if it was $10 an hour, it's still a lot, right? People complain about it, but they don't have the perspective. In Bali, you can't get $10 an hour, you know? Like Wickham was talking about, you're $100 to $200 a month, working 50 hours a week. They don't have the perspective. So I always contemplate on the idea of, hey, if I was born in Bali, how could I become successful? I couldn't. Because it comes down to, you have to learn English first, like in the Weekend podcast, to get the knowledge in, to get all that information in. So to truly understand how lucky we are, be grateful for all of that, you tap into that energy, and that allows you to go real hard. So
then that you became manager at Nando's within 9 months.
Yeah.
Worked your ass off for the next 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
As manager.
Yeah.
Where you were working 70 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
During this time, so the first year I read about 60 to 70 books in 1 year. The second year is when I first hit my 100. Once I roughly hit the 100, then I started this thing called Hardcore Headstart.
By 100, you mean 100,000?
I mean, so 100 books.
100 books, right.
100 books.
Yeah.
So I had that knowledge in.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, all right, I'm ready to start spreading this message to everybody else. Because I had come to the conclusion that, hey, at the end of the day, I'm only one person. What happens if we can inspire an entire movement across the entire world? And so every single person works together as one unit, as one team. We will be so much more powerful than I could ever be. Or even think of Jeff Bezos or any of the richest people in the world. We can actually become more powerful than him if we work together. I know I'll never be as rich as him, you know, individually, not even close, you know, but together we can become we can have $1 trillion of impact one day.
For sure.
Yeah. If he's worth 200 billion now, why can't, if we create a movement of 1 million people, donate $1 trillion, you know? Why can't we?
Why not?
So while you were reading the 100 books, you were pretty much like figuring out the hardcore Headstart way, right?
Yeah. I waited until I thought I knew enough.
Yep.
And then I started spreading the word. And then I knew social media would be like very important, that we need to get on social media and all of that. I think maybe one of my mistakes would have been like, maybe it was too early. Maybe 100 books wasn't enough. Maybe I needed more knowledge and more experience. But then at the same time, did need to just start doing it. I think my biggest mistake with trying to explain it to Samir and Daniel, the importance of Hardcore Headstart and how it all works, would have been two main things. One would have been I should have learned how to teach first. If I had focused more time on teaching, then I would have been able to teach better, to allow the absorption of the information better. And then the other thing I wish I'd learned quicker, which I've only recently started to learn last couple of years, is sales. If I'd learned how to sell better, I could sell the idea better. So now, like, people that I come across, I can sell Hardcore Headstart very easy to them, and they understand the importance of Hardcore Headstart, and then they feel aligned with Hardcore Headstart straight away. You know, but I just didn't have those two skills in yet, because I was, you know, at the same time I was focusing on other things. I had nothing to sell to people, so I was thinking that's an opportunity cost to research sales. You know, I didn't have that many people to teach yet, so I thought it was an opportunity cost to learn teaching, where I thought it was better use of my time to invest that into actual how to make the money, how to make the strategy.
And I think those are like two things that people are actually scared to start doing.
Yeah, teaching and sales.
Yeah, because sales, you think like you associate to like, I don't know, like seller, or like you're like pushing it on to them.
Yeah.
Or like teaching is just
all
like,
comes down to communication at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Would
how
you
you
say,
communicate.
if you were to group those two mistakes together, would you say that there was a lack of strategy? Or would you say
it was just no one there. It was just hard, because it's just like, I can't talk to someone to say what's the flaw in my game.
so you had no feedback?
Yeah, I had no feedback.
Right.
Because there literally wasn't I've never spoken to anybody. You know, like, I can't say to them, hey, this is exactly what I'm doing, this is my game plan, look at all my shit, have a conversation for 5 hours so you know where I'm at, mentally speaking, in terms of knowledge, and then them saying, hey, you know what you're missing is communication skills. You don't know how to convince people that your way is it's an interesting way, you know, in terms of sales and all of that. And then you can't teach it as well to make it stick in the mind. And then a lot of the time I thought people were me. I thought everybody had the untapped potential to switch on and become a beast. And I just found out over time that that's not really realistic.
Yeah,
some
because
people
like
are
different
like that.
environments are like create different people.
Yeah. So I'll just be like, hey, we go fast. Because that's how my brain works. Go real quick. Then I realized, oh, you actually got to go slow. You got to go slow, steady, make it stick, like the podcast format. That's why I thought podcast format is so great, because it's an hour long.
Yeah.
And many reps. You know, like little concepts like that, reps. I didn't know this stuff.
I think, like, building on that, for me, like, one of my mistakes that I did at the start of my journey in Hardcore Headstart was I didn't fully understand the vision of Hardcore Headstart, right? So I understood it was a movement, but I didn't really understand it properly. Like, I didn't grasp the essence of it. And I think the mistake I did was I didn't ask enough questions. I should have been more direct, and I should have asked you more questions and seeked more repetitions. I didn't do that. I was just coming along for the ride, not having a proper vision. If I had known the vision and like actually felt the vision, then I would have acted differently. I would have acted with more purpose. And that's one of my mistakes earlier on.
I think that potentially ties in with sometimes when you're a young person and you're in this weird dynamic of a mentor and a mentee, that sometimes you, as the mentee, you feel like you want to know or show that you have the knowledge too. But it's actually better to say, hey, I don't know. I'm actually a bit confused on the vision. Something as basic as the vision, which is the first thing. Can you explain it to me in a different way? Like, oh, I don't know this topic. Can you explain it to me in a different way? But as well, it goes both ways in terms of, you know, I should have done a better job too. So no one is perfect
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
And I guess that's where like asking stupid questions comes in.
Exactly.
Like we're built to, we're actually afraid of asking stupid questions. Like through school, it's scary. It's not easy.
It comes down to like at the start, I definitely had way too much ego. I didn't value the knowledge that you had. I didn't value knowledge in general because I didn't come from that environment. I came from an environment of, academia and stuff, but you read 100 books. I've never met anyone that's read 100 books. So I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? Right? So I didn't value it. I had a lot of ego. I didn't ask questions. So I didn't have a feedback.
Yeah.
So I was just going off of what I perceived to be the vision of hardcore.
Yeah.
So when you're a student, I was a bad student pretty much, right? So being a student, you've got to like ask so many questions. You've got to be more curious. And then it's okay to come off as, stupid when you ask those questions because you don't know.
The mentor wants that. The mentor literally is like, please, like, we can't know exactly what's happening in their minds.
Yeah.
Please just tell me, like, what do you not understand? Because at the end of the day, we have the same goal. We want everybody to be as smart as possible so we can invest our money, help us personally first, then help our friends and family, our initial circle around us. And then once we've done that, let's help those people like in Bali and all of that. But I think hopefully from this story so far about this example of Bali and all of that, that this is going to start, it's a seed in people's brains now.
Yeah.
Slowly, you give it 3 years, people are going to get it.
Like one red flag on my end, like a mistake earlier on, which was not asking enough questions to understand the vision. So whenever, like at the start, we would post a lot of content on our social medias, and like a few of my friends and family would ask, what is Hardcore Headstart? And I wouldn't be able to explain it to them. That in itself shows a lack of knowledge. And I didn't act on that by asking you more about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. So in a way, it was ego and a lack of extreme ownership. I just wasn't a good student.
I remember explaining it in the that story gets me every time, so it's put me in a bit of a hole. I remember explaining it to people in just a ridiculous way of like what Hardcore Headstart is, and there's no way a person could potentially ever understand what I was saying. But I thought it was their fault they wouldn't understand. I didn't understand it was my lack of communication or my lack of ability and competence to be able to explain to someone simply enough. I thought, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm telling you the answer, but I'm actually just confusing them even more. So,
and probably because we both didn't understand the vision.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you don't know something entirely, if you don't embody it, you can't explain it.
For a split second, just to pause there as an example, because I'm going to forget this idea. But to understand the vision, I highly recommend people watch the movie Schindler's List. It really explains it. Like, it's literally a movie about like this guy going through the exact same journey. It's wild. And then it's this old movie, so it's really slow. It's not action packed like the movies are like now. They're practically a compilation of all of like TikToks. They're just boom, 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 boom for an hour and a half. Slow as, but trust me, like if you go into it with no bias, it literally will change your life. It will be another repetition about what Hardcore Headstart's all about. No one that's actually gone into it with a lack of ego, saying that, it's an old movie and it's in black and white. That, everybody that's gone in there with a lack of ego has said that's been a movie that's changed my life.
I could have got more out. I could have got more. I don't know if I just... I could have got more.
Oscar, there are 1,100 people who are alive because of you. Look at them.
If I'd made more money. I threw away so much money. You have no idea. If I just...
There will be generations because of what you did.
I didn't do enough.
You did so much.
That's how good it is. It's one of the best.
Far out, boys.
And then this is super important, because if you have that why, if you can understand your vision and your mission in life, and you're thinking big, it's not about you. That's easy shit. You'll sort your shit out. You know, mortgage problems, all this, that's tiny stuff. That's small world stuff. We're thinking big here, right? And if you can get that in now, and then you start to understand the importance of our podcast, the importance of our knowledge, because the key difference with our podcast is that, hey, you know, like, because people don't like knowledge in terms of an education, in terms of the schooling system, where 99% of it you won't use. But what's our job? Our job is to curate the information to give you the 1%. That's all we give. We don't give any fluff. All that fluff we throw out the window, and we all work together leading into these podcasts to make sure, boys, let's cut out all the fluff.
Yeah.
Just hard hitters. Give them the hard hitters. Save people time. Bring value. Change lives.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Wow.
That's crazy.
There isn't a time where you tell that story that it doesn't hit.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It honestly, it hits so deep. It's just a bit of a, I don't know how to kind of
Leaves us speechless.
don't know how to be a functioning human being after that one, to be honest with you. But
overall, like, the story so far with Hardcore Headstart is that. Plus, then we started training up Samir and Daniel, first two. We had other people, they dropped off. Mentees that dropped off to explain our way of life, explain how money works, explain investing, and explain the philosophies of life. Most dropped off. And that's why it's credit to you two boys for sticking around, especially when I was at my weakest self, you know, when I wasn't strong. Now I'm very, very strong. You know, back then I had flaws in my game. So the thing is, though, I had flaws, which means you boys learn slower. You boys had flaws, because everybody has flaws, means you learn slower again. But you still learn pretty damn fast. But that's where G comes into the story. Because G came in later than you boys, maybe 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later. Then I'm stronger, you boys are stronger, and then you can get a benefit of all of that. You get the best version of myself. You get to hear the experience and the mistakes of these two boys, and they can help you and give you advice. Don't do this same thing. And then that brings us to the topic of today's podcast. We're trying to help you understand our mistakes so you can learn as fast as possible.
I think one thing that G, we talked about this in the last podcast, but the thing with G is you didn't have ego. I think that's the big hitter. You came in with an open mind, and you were able to absorb every bit of information that we were saying, like all our mistakes that you just saw, and you're like, I'm not going to repeat this because I know where it leads to. It's just going to make me slower. You know, I think that's the big hitter. At the start, if you're a student, if you're learning something, just get rid of your ego, because that's going to slow you down. It's definitely slowed Doc and mine's progress. You know, we could have been 2 or 3 years ahead of where we are now if we had just, you know, valued the knowledge that Dylan had, asked more questions, and then didn't have an ego.
And done it properly. And done the actual knowledge properly.
Yeah.
Which, like, leads into one of, like, my major mistakes was, like, over justification of what was actually being done. So say if the goal is to read, you know, an hour a day to finish a book a week, I would over justify by saying, I was so busy that day I didn't get the entire thing done. It's all right. I tried. I got a decent amount done. I know the knowledge though. So when it comes to a conversation, I always have the ability to keep up with conversation, but not know something entirely. Which meaning I can falsify what I know pretty comfortably, but I don't truly know it.
And then what's that? You're like faking it until you're making it, in a sense.
But you never actually make it because you're always faking it.
Would you say that is also...
Anyway.
Would you say that's also lack of high standards?
Sure, I had no standards.
Yeah, I think we all did. Like me and you specifically, we didn't understand high standards, and that kind of leads into the Jiro. Jiro was one thing that you kept saying over and over and over again. You watched that Jiro Dreams of Sushi documentary, and then you told us to watch it just to understand the standards that he was operating at. And for me personally, I didn't watch it straight away. Like, I didn't watch it straight away. I don't know why I didn't watch it straight away. Probably most likely because of ego. And I was just like, it's just another documentary. Like, I didn't value documentaries. I didn't value the knowledge behind documentaries. Like, it literally takes someone a lot of time to curate and direct a documentary. Like, it's there for a reason, right? I didn't value a documentary, and I missed out on so many months. I think a couple months I didn't even watch it.
Yeah.
And then I watched Jiro, and then I understood what you were saying.
This is a philosophy of life.
Philosophy of life. And at the first instance of watching it, I didn't truly appreciate it. And that comes down to a lack of character within me. I just didn't have, I wasn't on the path of becoming a man yet. You know, I didn't have that character to truly grasp the philosophy that Jiro was teaching of high standards.
で自分たちでも例えばお寿司を作ってやってるだけどまだあるんだろうまだあるんだろうって上を見るわけでしょということはまだ上に何かがあるっていうことそこまで頂上まで行けば完璧かも分かんないけどじゃあこの頂上はどこかっていうと分かんないわけですよ。今仕事しててこの年になって完璧だとは思っていないからね。気分いいですよ。一日中ほんわかほんわかで握ってられるし職人根性でしょうねこれは。それをやめるその自分が一生懸命でやってるところをやめる水商売が嫌だななんて思ったこと一回もないです。ただこれをもう惚れて一生懸命でこれをやって少しでも上っていうふうに考えて現在まで来ています。だから今85になってもさあ今やめようかという気はあまりありません。そういうことです。
I remember maybe having a conversation about a piece of content we were watching, and that conversation was my entire understanding of what the actual content was. So I would go into it and be like, I already know the answers. So when you watch it, I'm so biased against actually watching it. So I never actually consume. So like one tip is please go, once you're consuming information, go with no bias, go with no ego, just to genuinely understand what it is that you're listening and watching, because you will soak in a considerable amount of more value than if you just have preconceived notions of what it is you're watching. Like, don't look at a title and be like, that's the answer. Like, the title is not the answer. So sushi, Dreams of Sushi is not about sushi.
And like when you watch this thing, it's not like I'll have it in the background playing. It's no, you only doing this. It will change your life. 2 hours of time changes your life. How much reward do you get? You invest 2 hours, you probably will get literally hundreds of thousands of hours of time back in return. It's a great investment. Great investment. Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Watch that thing properly.
And in that, like, we won't give too much of the documentary away, but what we got out of it was just the high standards, like a level of detail for everything that he does, and the reps that he's put in throughout his whole life. So it's all about mastery and high standards. It ingrains that into you. And that's definitely something that we were lacking at the time, and we're still lacking now. Like, we're not anywhere near where we want to be. But that's why we keep repeating Jiro over and over again. We don't watch it once. We keep repeating it over and over again.
Yeah, you're always lacking because you're trying to become a better person. We're never going to be, I mean, it's that Matthew McConaughey quote again, isn't it? You're always chasing your future self. You're always chasing that self 10 years in the future. You're never going to become that person, but chasing that person is the art.
On that topic, I wanted to give a plug. Daniel did a video recently on his channel where he reacts to like his younger self. I really like that video, man. Like
Thank you, bro.
You looked at it from like your like how you've grown, like from that point of view to like you looking at your immature self.
Yeah.
So
that video really ties into today's podcast.
To everyone that's watching, I highly recommend going on Daniel Trees' channel and checking that out. If you haven't seen it
in the description.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was coming.
No, that one ties
really
in perfectly
good.
with this podcast for sure.
I did roughly 60 takes of that to try and
It was really good though. Really valuable, I thought.
That's very kind of you. I appreciate that.
But like when we do go back and watch some of our old vlogs of our younger selves, we just cringe because we just in that moment we thought, oh shit, we know all this shit, we know all this knowledge, and then we come back and we're just like, you didn't know shit. Your level was so low, but you thought you were high at that point.
There's a lot of cringe, but it's looking at like the positives. There's a lot of perspective of like, wow, we actually did some shit. We actually did some shit.
Yeah.
Like the last, I think that was early 2017, February 2017, and that's like 4 years ago now. Which 4 years in the scope of an entire lifetime is not a long time. So to be able to kind of make, in my opinion, become a completely different human being, and all of us together, completely different human beings. Like I've said this before, and one of our mistakes is, in regards to Hardcore Headstart, is like we were not we put so much pressure on him to be able to fucking actually get Hardcore Headstart off. The Hardcore Headstart should not exist. It should not exist by the way that, we made it so difficult of like just not progressing at the level that we should have because we didn't understand the lessons. And sure, you can say you didn't teach us well, but it's, I'm really proud and really, really, really like emotional to say, fuck, this shit still exists and we're still here and we're actually the best we've ever been. So every message we put out is literally refined. It's on purpose. It's designed. It's now embodiment of us. The previous version of us, the 2017, could not actually sit in front of you right now and create this podcast. We would not be able to.
I actually remember in one of my vlogs, this was back in the Keysborough house. Dylan was in Bali at the time for, I think, a month or something, a couple of weeks. You were gone, and it was just me and Doc. And we were moving the furniture from the ground floor to the top floor. And I remember the reason why we were moving it was because we were setting up for a podcast at that time. And imagine if we had started a podcast at that time with the knowledge that we had then.
I remember us doing a one.
Yeah.
I remember us doing one. I know you remember this because it was like a terrible moment for your life. Like, I remember being able to look back on it now, obviously not in the moment.
Yeah.
But being able to look back on it is like, what the fuck?
We didn't have the right to say anything back then.
At all.
The funniest shit was like I was the cameraman. I was recording the whole thing. And in my mind, I was the one who was asking questions as well because you asked me to like ask questions to you guys at the end. Yeah. And I remember like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is the best shit. These guys are so smart.
It's so cringe, man. Looking back at that old shit.
It's just that ego with the inability to actually be self-aware enough to understand where you're at.
I feel like back then, when we look at our old videos, I feel like we're all kids, man. Dude, we're not grown-ups. We were just acting so childish back then.
Even the look around 25 kilos lighter.
Dude, you looked so different back then.
Dude, I got a double chin. You know how much I appreciate this shit? People making fun of me and shit. You have no idea. But it's really good to be able to look back on certain things like that. And I guess another mistake is leading into Hardcore Headstart. The contract literally was, hey Dylan, you're going to mentor us and we'll create content. We'll create an entire backlog or journey, a documented journey of what this lifestyle turns out to be. And one of the regrets is we never did enough of that. So we don't have enough to go back on, which is like not ideal. But
if we could show the journey that's possible and see it that we progress to now where we are now. It's always a bit weird now. It's like, oh, here we are now.
Yeah.
just trust us.
Yeah.
If we did have that backline, it would be really beautiful.
It absolutely would be, but I do always come back to like the perspective thing where it's like I now appreciate content, or I appreciate making content. I put a lot of effort into everything we do when it comes to content more because I know the alternative. Like, because if you don't make it, you don't have that history there. You don't have a picture or a story for people to actually be able to resonate with. So, and with all these mistakes, that's the answer, right? If that didn't happen, then you can't appreciate it now, and you can't allow yourself to not make that mistake ever again and help people. So making these mistakes may have taken us longer, but it's a benefit for everyone who's listening to it because now you guys get to accelerate.
I also just wanted to touch on some of my mistakes as well, because like obviously I was so fortunate that I had these guys, like these three, that I didn't end up making a lot of mistakes. But I think one of the biggest mistakes I did was not start earlier than what I did. So when Dylan started telling me about Hardcore Headstart, like he had like this like list of books and videos and podcasts and shit that I should check out. And rather than like starting it, rather than like reading the books properly, I would just like be like switching in my mind. I'd be like, oh, can I trust Dylan? Can I do this? I should have just started with reading the first book. And then I would have seen like, and I think the first book was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then I would have seen like, fuck, what Dylan's saying does make sense.
So what was it that made you question Dylan, or if he's legit or not? What was it?
Just my environment, mostly. Like my environment at the time was just like, I'll go to uni, just go to uni, focus on uni. And obviously like just a little backstory, like I felt like uni was like, I came out of school realizing that like I just did not like the education path, and I didn't not know what I wanted to do, but I always felt like us as humans, we need a purpose driving us. I always felt like that, but I didn't have a purpose. So I've always been like subconsciously like I'll be like searching for a purpose. But what I realized is like you get purpose through, or you realize your purpose through more knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not gonna realize my purpose at 18. I'm gonna have to educate myself on the world, and then I'll realize my purpose as I get more smarter.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Trust and reputation on a specific person comes from like seeing that they're consistently right.
Yeah.
Like that they actually give you the right information, the right value, and they say what they do. So there's no way you can just look at it and go, "Yeah, I trust you." Right, well, maybe now because his head, look at him.
His head grows every day.
But you should just get a tattoo like across your head. Trust me.
No, you should get a tattoo which has like a line here. It started growing here, and it just gets further and further from the line, so you actually visibly see how much your head has grown.
Keeps growing, sons.
But it's the things we do, the things we say that then allow other people to continuously trust. And like we've seen a lot more people come out of the woodworks when this podcast has began. And that's because now you guys can actually see it. And to G's point, like when we first started this, we didn't have anything. Like there was nothing to look on and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see the actual picture of where this leads to. Like the dojo, the first dojo was Dylan's room. Yeah. Like it was Dylan's room where he had the smallest little bed and the rest of it was office.
What I want to do though is, because this side kind of looks professional, and being inspired by this fella Elon Musk.
So turned up.
Alright. I want to do what he did. Is he didn't even have a bed when he was starting up. Mindset was, all I need is an office.
I read that, yeah.
Yeah, remember?
That's crazy.
So that's what I want to do. I want to turn it into a proper office.
That's what it was. Yeah. And that was like it furnished. Previous to that, it was a bed. You've check out one of the previous podcasts where Dylan explains like he actually literally had nothing, he had to buy everything one piece at a time. Right, so we didn't have anything to show people. Right, and that was one of the points of leaving that Springvale and going to Keysborough was, hey, now we have this big house. We can use this in our social media content to be able to use this as like a selling point, or like, hey, this
content house.
Yeah, it's like a nice visual environment or space of progression.
Yeah, actual evidence that we have.
Exactly. So
I regret. That's one thing I regret Like I regret not starting earlier on the content that you guys laid out for me.
How old were you when Dylan first approached you about Hardcore Headstart?
I can't remember my age exactly. Do you remember?
Well, it would have been the exact same time I approached Daniel and Samir, because I approached everybody.
Yeah.
So it's all the same
I
time.
was like 14, 15.
Yeah, you're really younger than me, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, so you probably When did you get your
Wait,
job? Were you
Doc,
15?
you were
Actually
15?
yeah.
When he approached you?
yeah, I started at Nando's at 15.
I
He
started
started 3
Nando's
months
at
after
15
me.
as well.
So it's like, get it to this point took a long time.
Holy shit.
To where you said yes.
But I didn't say yes at 15.
Yeah.
So we
Moved in at
started, but
19.
we started selling it then,
Jesus.
trying to attract.
But he did it in the smartest way possible, bro. It's fucking,
How was
now
it
it's-
smart?
Huh?
How was it smart?
I may not have been intentional, but it's like you're it probably wasn't even personalized, or it might have been, but like I always appreciate like random facts and knowledge. I'm like, how the hell? Because I always thought I knew a lot, but it was ego, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I know what to say, I know the answers, etc., etc. I know random things.
Mm.
It's always just me making shit up like a liar. But once someone comes in with high conviction of actually saying this is the fact, and it's a random little thing, like there is no reason you should actually know that piece of information, but then you say it, it's like, well, how do you know that? What did you do? You learn. Okay. And then for like literally 3 or 4 years, we just come up with this random shit, always saying it. And it seemed random, but it's like that inquisitive and curiosity, that same as Marky has, which draws me. I'm like, wow, okay. That eventuated in me listening continuously, which eventuated in moving out at 19 in with him.
Yeah, and so back to my story. So like, I have a point with this, and I want to like give a message to the audience as well. But so right now, like I'm very fortunate that in 3 years I'm on $250,000, but I could have been further ahead if I had listened earlier.
Yeah.
So like, just the message is like, I think everyone watching, like, just go back to the first episode and just listen and start taking action on what we're saying. And it definitely will resonate with you as you start taking the action. You probably won't trust it for a while, but it's like it's something that once you start doing it, you realize this is right.
Yeah, because it's our system. Our system is different. Like coming back to the A's, B, C, the alphabet. That's the value right there. No one else is doing it like us. No one else is dedicating it, curating it, and then shuffling it in the right order for you to best to learn. Like, no one else is doing that. So you just got to have faith and trust this process. Pump out and really put the effort in, like 20 podcasts. You're going to see this literally changes your life.
Yeah, to really like understand the weight. Like this is hundreds and hundreds of books, thousands and thousands of hours of YouTube videos and content and experience of finding out what does work and what doesn't. It's all of that over a decade, cultivated into podcast format. Like it's so much information that we've decided that isn't necessary. We're picking the 1%, as Dylan said previous, and putting it in this format. Like the amount of work necessary just to be able to come to this point is absurd. And to G's point as well, like what happens if you do start? If you get this knowledge and in 3 years you do actually achieve what it is we're saying you can.
Yeah.
Like that's what you get. If you don't do any of the work, like what are you going to be doing? Still wandering through life, still not understanding what the hell you want. You might go do another uni course because that's not the uni course you wanted to do. You may go do another uni course because that's not what the uni course you wanted to do. Like
It's such a great point.
To be able to find out what you want to do, you need to have more knowledge. That is the fact of life.
And it's not like starting what we're saying. It's not like that's going to set you back.
Yeah,
it will definitely open your mind, and you can read it and be like, "Oh, I don't sit with this knowledge that well," and then go away, and then that's fine.
Yeah.
But like,
and then realize once you have more knowledge that it actually does sit with you well.
That's what we do.
Because that's happened to me many times.
Actually, a good example of like the reason why we have the format of the podcast where we talk about character and building character first is because we actually had a mistake. I think probably 2018, where we were in the Keysborough house, right? And at the start, for me, and I think Doc would resonate with this as well, we were really focused on money and finance over the knowledge and character, right? So to a point, it was like very transactional, our relationship as a mentee to Dylan. It was like, how can we just get more money, right? And we didn't have the character to back that up. And at one point, during the 2017 crypto bull run, me and Doc were well over six figures. But then afterwards, we didn't have the knowledge on how to invest, first of all, and we didn't have the experience of the character to actually be a six figure, your net worth to actually be six figures, right? So we actually lost six figures. And after that, it kind of exposed us for who we were. It exposed our flaws, and we just dropped off in terms of progression after that point. Because we didn't have the character. We were just focusing on finance and we didn't have the character. That's why from that experience, we're like, instead of talking about investing in finance first, character is even more important. If we had that character, then we would have known what to do when we were six figures. Like when I was six figures, my head was so big, bigger than Dylan's head. Like, I was just like, I was so complacent.
That's a funny joke.
I was so complacent. I was just like, what could go wrong at that point? And like anything could happen at that point. But I was just like, it's just going to keep going up. It's just going to keep going up.
Yeah.
And I became like a shitty human being.
The reality is a situation. You can have six figures. You can have seven figures. You have multiple seven figures. If you don't know how to actually create it and you just got lucky,
exactly,
you're losing all the shit. You need to become a person who can actually create wealth or understand how to allocate wealth.
Yeah. And now, like if we go back to zero, let's say we fuck up something and we go back to zero, we still have the character to actually get back to where we are now within 2 years. We have that character. We have the work ethic. We have the knowledge. It'll be very easy for us to get back here. And that's what we want. We don't want to give you the fish. We want to teach you how to fish.
I feel really confident in that statement to be like, you could set me back to zero and I feel really confident.
Yeah.
I'll get back here really quickly.
Real quick. We know every one of us knows how to get back here real quick.
I think kind of talked about comfortability then.
Complacency
after that fact. And I remember a feeling of when you have a mentor, you have someone who's teaching you in life, you can sometimes take them for granted subconsciously.
Yeah.
It's not like you actually take them for granted as in like intentionally, but subconsciously you just know that you think that they're always going to be there for you.
Yeah.
And it's not like Dylan's not there because he's fucking definitely here for us. But the point of becoming the best version of yourself is become the best version of you so that you can be independent and you can actually give back and help on your own, right? Amongst a group of people. Right. So when you're so dependent on someone, like in 2017, I've said this many times, but none of that money that I made was mine.
I agree. Same with me. It was all based on Dylan's knowledge.
Sure, I worked for it. I actually put the money in the market, but I wasn't deserving of it.
Yeah.
And after that fact, it became very clear, and even more so in the last couple of years, that if you just lean on a person, that will lead to inaction or lead you to just, not actually keeping your word, staying accountable to what it is that you think you can do and what you should be doing. You'll just be like, well, I've got this person in my life who's clearly smart and working so damn hard. I will just continually sit behind them. And I do know this for a fact. I was not doing it intentionally. It was subconscious, but it still existed.
We should have taken ownership of that.
Yeah. And during that time, like, I didn't have the emotional intelligence to understand the toll it was taking on Dylan.
Yeah.
Looking back, is there anything that you guys wish that you did more of, like self-reflection or journaling or
work?
I think I should have been more aware of my actions. I like what Doc was saying. I lacked emotional intelligence, and I was complacent, and I always felt like, if anything goes wrong, I'll just go back to Dylan. I was always relying too much on Dylan. I wasn't strong. That's what it comes back to. Like Dylan was saying, now he's strong. We want everyone to be strong so they don't have to rely on someone. I was constantly relying on Dylan. So if I could build myself up even more, by doing more work in terms of getting the knowledge, but also acting a certain way, right? Acting with intention, acting with integrity, not being complacent. That would have been the best course of action. I could have improved upon that.
Leads me into like one of my biggest mantras for my life is be who you needed when you were younger. It's something that drives me every day because I had that person. You know, and a lot of people, in Dylan's case and a few of our other friends and people we know, they were entirely on their own in this journey. Not to just 100K, but becoming the best version of themselves. There is no one to mentor them. They were on their own. You know, so we created a community, but I had a person. I had Dylan. Dylan was teaching me. If I didn't know something, can you tell me the answer? And it's not like, hey, just gave me the answer every time, because that's not, as you learn, that's not exactly how you teach. It's, you need to teach a man how to fish. Yeah. Not just give him the fish, but it's through.
We didn't respect the mentor as much as we should have.
Yeah, it's through understanding emotional intelligence, like, I think deeper, that you can kind of look back on those moments in perspective and really understand the toll you're taking, or how much you subconsciously were taking everything for granted, and becoming a person that doesn't do that is a completely different human being, which is necessary. So I'm not sure, we haven't really spoken to that, I haven't said it like that before, so but this is probably a really good time to just thank.
It's a hard voice.
It's it makes me relatively emotional because like we said, we're not special at all. And even back at like 16, I don't even know the answer to this. Is like, why the fucking hell did he decide to like just have a conversation with me? Yeah, it makes no sense. Like, I know the kind of person I was back then as a stupid little child. So to be able to have conviction in someone else's brain that you can actually become something is heartwarming and means a lot. And there's a few people I know out there who I talk to regularly that I have the same conviction in them. I know they have the potential to become something, and that's why I'm communicating with you. That's why I talk to you. So
I really like your guys' story, and I feel like it's really relevant, especially now because like crypto's going up again, and everyone's just pumping coins, everyone's just pumping stocks and to each other. And it's like, why we're so needed is like, no one actually knows how to fish. Everyone's just like jumping on the next trend.
No one goes based on their own knowledge that they acquired themselves.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to provide, that knowledge.
Our system and stuff is not based on luck.
Yeah.
Theirs is based on luck. You know, they're just jumping on those trains, like you're saying. Ours is guaranteed. There's a system there.
It's built on mistakes that you can only do by experiencing the process.
I love that argument of like taking more risk will lead to more money.
It's not that easy.
Have you heard of paper money, Michael? So on paper, you're going to have more money of this in the short term and the long term. But guess what? In the short term, on the long term, we're going to actually have money. You're going to have nothing because you lost it all.
Yeah, that's why I love Sam's story. It's like during the bull run, like, you know, you thought your money was going to go up forever.
Yeah.
And I bet that's how a lot of people are feeling now.
Yeah. I remember this one time, I remember the exact figure as well. So 2017, I was 23 years of age, and I was on $125,000. And I remember I was on 125. I was just looking at the numbers going up, 125,000. I was thinking, oh, today I made 10K. Cool. I'm just going to watch Netflix.
Really? Yeah.
That's what I was doing. Wow. That was a mistake. That's a mistake. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, because it's not backed by skill.
I didn't even earn that. But I had the audacity and the ego to be like, I'm good, boys. Like that. You know what I mean? Like, who was I? Money changed me.
I have this concept as well, which it's a bit woo-woo, but I like it anyway. It's thinking in terms of like there's these success gods in the world, and the success gods will only give you a certain amount of money if you provided more value than that. So like every time if I make $10,000, I'll be like, oh shit, I better give $40,000 of value to everybody around me ASAP. Otherwise, I'm going to lose this shit.
I think that's just karma.
I think that's just pure physics, right? Has an equal and opposite reaction. That's just physics of the universe, man.
Started with
You
woo-woo.
cracked the code, bro.
That's
Are
fine.
you Albert Einstein?
Now look at the size of your head.
Was that, I was
Oh no, that's it for me.
yeah, I was gonna. There's one up there that I don't know. I made a massive goddamn mistake on, was not prioritizing. It says sleep, but I'm gonna go with time. And I'll lead into sleep as well. So not prioritizing time. I remember I was like starting the journey and kind of, well, we can tell the Sharon story again if we want, where we went down a
Why don't we talk about it in more detail? Like, what was going through your head? Let's talk about that shit.
As a child, I don't know.
Yeah, tell the audience like what you were thinking. You just had the course from Dylan, like the day before.
I don't.
Yeah.
I literally can't give you an answer.
Yeah.
It's in because
Like, what was the context?
Oh, the context was like, if you haven't heard, we used to do a 3-day course, Hardcore Headstart Uni Day, that essentially almost broke down like what we're trying to do in a podcast format over a long amount of time in 3 days, 10 hours a day. And that was like the beginning of Hardcore Headstart.
Did
So
you
you
also feel
invested-
like you did the course and then you're like on top of the world? You're just like, oh yeah, I know everything. I'm
Just
good.
pumped you up, yeah.
I honestly can't tell you what I was thinking back then. I don't know how to say this out loud, but I don't even relate to the human being I used to be. So kind of putting myself in that mindset, which we've also worked on, is very difficult for me because I have burnt and buried that human being. Just evolved past, I would like to say. But yeah, so we did 3Ks Uni, and then the next day, Dylan was grinding at work at Nando's, and I turned up with a little door with a football in my hand.
What's a little door?
Little door's my little brother. I said that for him because he's going to listen to this now. Little football in my hand, right?
Yeah.
And the lack of understanding of what was actually happening at that time. Like I was just had 30 hours of time poured into me, like, hey, you need to work hard. And the next day I turned up with a Sharon kicking the footy down at the buck. And it's like, clearly don't understand A value. Very obviously don't understand time management, because at that time, when you're kicking a football with your brother, you should be working your damn ass off. You're not understanding the game. Right? Even at that young self, you can put it down to be a young version, but I had 30 hours poured into me. 30 hours is more than anyone else has been given here so far, especially if you listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Like we're, 10 episodes times 2, 20 hours. Let's just say it's that. Like at 30 hours of value, I was still turning up the next day of not paying attention. Not using my time wisely. All right, and where it leads into prioritizing sleep is still, even in Keysborough, this was when I was in Springvale, when Dylan was in Springvale, even in Keysborough, I would not prioritize sleep. I would say I'm tired all the time because I'm working so many hours, and I was working so many hours at the normal job. I was working my ass off to get money in the market, but I would then go out on a Friday night or go out on a Saturday night, and then I wouldn't prioritize what's important, that being sleep for me would actually grind on the weekend, or I wouldn't grind on the weekend.
Yeah. Like I reckon to say those Fridays, that's the best time. You got to look forward to your Friday because that's the day you can catch up on your sleep. Because most of the people finish work on 9 to 5, and same with Nando's. Like I was thinking, Friday night's the busiest night. Finish that, go straight to sleep ASAP, and then Saturday morning's like quite quiet, so you can sleep in a little bit.
And I would go out on a Friday night, and I didn't go to the clubs and shit like that because I separated myself from that. But it would be something like I would go to a friend's house, or I would go to the pub, or I would go to like a cricket club that I used to be affiliated with, and then on Saturday I'd play football.
It makes you real tired physically.
So yeah, like I'm at that age, sometimes hungover, then waking up the next day. I'm not waking up till like whatever time it might be, like at 10, 11 o'clock, because I'm sleeping in because I need to sleep more because I'm tired. And then I will go and play football, which is like pretty bad on the CNS, boys.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, I wouldn't be able, I would not be able to actually function, mentally wise, because everything is hurting and I'm still tired.
So like your ability to absorb information and to get smarter was limited because you didn't prioritize what you needed.
100%.
Yeah.
And even in like, I've been with my partner the entire time I've been doing this, right? I didn't prioritize her time enough, which leads to a massive argument because I would, work my ass off in the entire week, and then Friday night I go out with the boys or some shit like that, and then I play football Saturday, and then I'm grinding on Sunday, but half-ass grinding. I was like, when do you have time for a partner in that? I was like, if a partner is important to you, and you have a partner, which you can through this entire journey, but you need to prioritize the time.
I think that's the character. That's the difference in how you were before to how you are now. Like, when you have the character and you understand what it means to actually value important things in your life, that's when you progress. That's when you become like you're a man now. You're only 24, but it's hard for people to think you're 24. You're very mature for your age because of that character that you have. You know what's important. You're like a completely different person from the first time I met you.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy that you realize that like at 24, like I know people in the mid 30s that are still doing that, and they have kids, and then they come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I have no time for anything." Dude, you're playing soccer, like Indian soccer, and like
Indian soccer.
Wait, hold on.
On a Sunday morning.
What is Indian soccer?
What the fuck is Indian soccer? Tell me this shit.
Just with their like gang and all that. You just like
you have a gang. You're in a gang.
No.
Just
Just with like the Indian community.
Tell them to pack it up.
Oh,
No, just with like the Indian community, they go down and play soccer.
tell them to pack it.
Indian soccer.
Dude, it's just soccer. There's Indians who are playing soccer.
Indian soccer. You guys got 3 goals or something.
That's the thing. It wasn't even like a club or anything. It was just like
A community thing, right?
Yeah, and it's fine, but like that would take up like a whole day, and they'll do it like Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And then there'll be training as well. It's like you have kids.
Training.
Yeah.
You're not even playing properly.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And they have kids, and they have jobs, and they have like
I think that's what we should
families.
preface that point with. We're not saying don't do that.
Yeah.
Just know when to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Reward
If
yourself at
if
the
you're
end,
doing that all the time
Yeah.
and you're not progressing the things that you should be progressing,
Yeah.
something is wrong. You're obviously putting more time into something else.
Yeah.
you
And that's the
should be
thing.
putting
Like
more
if
time
you're
into yourself.
if you're recognizing that you have no time for
Yeah.
anything and you're still doing that, it's like, are you prioritizing your time correctly? Like
Yeah.
you got to think about that.
Yeah.
Here's a question I ask a lot of people. What do you want?
Mm.
What is it that you actually want? Because once you understand that, or you don't even fully have to understand it, because it's a very difficult and deep question. But once you have done enough thinking to believe you're on the right path, or you're just working towards understanding what you want, you'll understand the action that's necessary. Once you understand the action and you take it seriously, you put in the necessary action and you make the necessary sacrifices. The reality of life is you can't have everything. You need to make a sacrifice in something.
Yeah. For sure.
Depends on what you want, and what now we want is to help as many people as possible.
It's like unfortunately, like you can't have everything now. Doc's right. Like you got to sacrifice one thing,
Especially at the
or
start,
two
man.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have a lot in your life already, like you got to recognize what to sacrifice.
Yeah. That's a good point, Doc.
Your then priorities start changing. Like now, I actually have the time, the money, and the energy to go out and party if I wanted. But I could not give a flying fuck. Because it is not part of my priorities. If my main goal in life is to help as many people as possible, truly help them or change their lives, wow, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How is that even restoration? How is it even...
Dude, it's funny. I feel like an old person. Like I have a lot of mates that are like, "Oh man, come down. Like come down to my house. We'll have a few drinks." I'm like, bro, I'm gonna feel tired the next day. Like I'm already thinking like,
I'm thinking 4 days ahead, bro.
If I do that, I'm gonna be like so tired. I won't be able to
No,
function.
but I wouldn't say that's an old person. You just have shit to do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
You know, you just got things to do, important things to do, real shit to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that I think is really important, and speaking of environment, is doing the detail cleaning of the dojo. That was a mistake that certainly I made, whether it be in Keysborough and here as well. So, not doing it with intention, and then not doing it when you should be doing it every single day.
Yeah.
So I think that comes back to the Jiro as well. Jiro is always talking about the Kaizen philosophy, the attention to details of every little thing. And environment is one of those things. Environment plays a huge role in how you perform and how you are as a person, right? So neglecting the cleaning, dude, it affects the energy. And it doesn't build your character, right? It's one of those habits that you should be having every single day. Your environment should be clean. And sometimes I'd make the mistake of not cleaning.
The person you are is made in the small things that you do.
Yeah.
That's your character. Every single day you get up, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you actually, one of our things here is just detail cleaning. Do you detail clean the environment, not just for yourself, but for the people around you? What kind of person do you say you are? Are you actually that person?
I think it's funny as well, like talking in terms of like when we're helping younger kids and we're saying like, oh, my mum's always saying I need to do detail cleaning, like clean the house. Like, let's think big. Let's do so much cleaning that she's so shocked and impressed that she never even says a word ever again. Yeah. And she's like, my son knows the good shit.
Yeah. And then much cleaning. She's like, I'm sorry, I'll clean.
Because you could do 2 hours of cleaning a week and mum's happy. Or you could get screamed at for 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
Like, which one's better?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. And if you can't, like, even if you're 16, 17, 18, 19, there's no value in cleaning. I'm telling you right now, if you try to start a company and you can't clean your room, you're in a little bit of trouble.
Even little things like, when you wake up and you don't do your bed, that affects your energy.
Yeah.
That affects you as a human being.
Dude, the funny thing was like when I was younger, and like obviously I have all the time in the world, but like when my mum would ask me to clean something around the house, I'd be like, I have no time, I'm busy. Like
while
looking back, I'm like, what am I busy with?
Nothing, yeah.
What do I do? You look. I've had the exact same thought looking back on like school life. I was like, what did I do? Like, I don't remember doing something.
Yeah. I remember like growing up, and this is like I reflect on this like every single day, right? Growing up, my mom still works, and every single weekend, this is like when I was living with my parents and stuff, right? My mom is like one of my heroes, right? Because she worked so much when we came to Australia. We moved here in 97. And since 97, she's just been a mum, taking care of us and working, plus taking care of the house. My dad was also doing that, but like I felt like my mum had way more responsibility that I could see. Yet I took that for granted. And especially with the cleaning, like my mum works during the week, and then on the weekends, she'll be the one cleaning the house. I should have been the one that was helping her clean the house. Like, she would clean my room. She would clean the bathroom. She would clean the kitchen. She would clean the living room. Like, it was all her. She was working so hard. And, now as an adult, 27-year-old, I'm just like, fuck. I took away so much energy from my mom instead of giving her that energy. So if you're living at home with your parents, give back to them, man, because like, dude, you owe so much to your parents.
I know
don't take that energy from them.
Yeah, 100%. Man. I know I can look back objectively at my parents' house now, and I know the environment there is still not clean, right? Yeah. So it's like, if you're a parent as well, it's like, don't just ask your kid to shit, clean up, set the example. Like, are you actually setting the example, or you just ask them to do shit? And if you're a kid, take leadership of it. Be the leader in your house and actually set the example, bring up everyone else, because in my opinion, goes every way. It goes both ways. Cleaning was not a thing. Like, it was relatively clean, but not really. If I'm being completely honest. Standards wise, I didn't learn standards until I moved into this house and understand that. And then, as we talk about accelerated learning as well, like, G moved into this house, did not have a problem, did he? At all?
No, he just picked it up.
He slacked off for a week, the first week. That's the truth.
1 week.
1 week.
I'm on the list. You have it. You can have it. I'll give you 1 week. That's fine. Because we did 4 years. So, whatever, 2 years. But like, for the kind of to come in, you've already seen the mistakes that we've made. Dylan probably also would have said, dude, like, this was a thing that you didn't get done from Samir and Daniel early on. Like, this is something you need to understand is necessary and important for you to be able to clue on within a week. Even if someone had to say something, is, you know, that's the value of that accelerated learning through mistakes and the system that we have going. Just constant feedback through us all. Now,
there is one thing that, like, after that week that Dylan had chat to me.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that he told me, which was if you can't, like, keep your environment clean, or if you can't do your deeds properly, then, like, how am I meant to trust you with giving you bigger tasks in the future for, like, the company? So that, like, hit me. I'm like, dude, if I can't even, that's true, if I can't even do these small things that Dylan's laid out, when he has bigger problems with the company, how is he going to rely on me?
It's 100% right, because that's what a house is. A house has tiny problems. We need to fix those tiny problems on a daily basis from the cleaning. A company has huge problems every single day.
Yeah.
So we need to be ready for them.
Yeah, it's the same. You can't make your bed, you can't clean your room, you can't build a company. I don't know how many times we have to say that one, but
Did you make that up?
Huh?
Did you make that up?
I think that was the Navy SEAL guy.
Oh, really?
The Navy SEAL, when he was giving that speech. If you can't do your bed properly, if you can't do the little things properly.
yeah, that was the premise of it. If you can't make your bed, how are you going to actually
You made that into a nice quote.
Yeah.
I should
Build
clip
a company. Yeah.
quote God?
All right, boys. Is there any other
Can't clean your
mistakes?
room, you can't.
Right,
You can't clean a company.
Pretty good, isn't it? It's a
I
lot
think
of
we
us.
covered most of it.
Yeah.
clip it.
I think we can pretty much start wrapping it up.
I think there's maybe one more thing, which was
Yeah.
a short-term mindset.
I think you touched on that.
We covered that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like being selfish and focusing on money and not character development
Yeah.
in the beginning, which touching on it slightly, like focus on money in regards to like getting money into the market, but focus on becoming a person who can actually allocate and become a person who has that amount of money. Like look at a person, everyone has that stigma of the guy in the suit or et cetera, a person who understands how money works. To have a decent amount of money, you need to become that person. And if you get it too early, it's the same as the people who win Tats Lotto, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing is like we've been 100% transparent that, you know, we're not perfect. We all have lessons to learn. We should never, and it's good to understand how our brains think. It's an insight into how we think and how we look at the world with a lack of ego. And we don't think we are the best or anything. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to we are trying to show to the audience that we are trying to provide as much value as possible, you know, from everything that we've learned. And we're not the best at this podcasting format or teaching or any of this stuff in general yet. But we know it's pretty damn good, like especially our knowledge. And if you can follow it, honestly, it does lead to a way, way, way better life. And we're going to try and do our best. And this is what Hardcore Headstart's all about. So no matter what, we will always try and do the right thing.
I think wrap it up from here for episode number 10. Yeah. I think in the next one we can go into I think the next one's going to be about a routine that we follow every single day. We can talk about that and things that you can implement for your life. So I think for episode number 10, we'll wrap it up here. So again, if you guys liked it, please.
One thing. An overarching, apologize to ruin your outro.
That's all good.
But one overarching thing of the entire thing that we actually haven't just said is every single mistake we made is because we didn't actually take extreme ownership of everything and anything that we were doing. We didn't take ownership of understanding the deeds, understanding the value of something, right? So we've got an entire podcast on extreme ownership. It's podcast,
I think
5 somewhere in there. Go and watch it. It says extreme ownership. Understand what it is and really apply it to your life, because it's the overarching thing of pretty much the entire day today, I think. So,
and get your hands on Jiro Dreams of Sushi as well. Find a way to get it.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. You can rent it,
and
bro.
don't do the mistake that I did. Please watch it.
And watch it properly.
Watch it, please.
You can actually watch it for free on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a free
really?
version. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We'll link that as well so that you don't have to go look for it.
Yeah. Easy.
All right. On that note, let's wrap it up here, boys. Again, if you guys liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you don't miss any episode that we put out. We put out an episode every single week. And so far, 10 weeks in a row, we've been putting out an episode. This is episode number 10. And we hope you guys found it valuable. If you found it valuable, please share it with your friends and family, because the more people that we get listening into what we have to say, the more impact we'll have as, Hardcore Headstart as a company. So on that note, shall we pack it up?
Pack it up.
Pack it up.
Pack her up, sons.
Thank you for listening.